Gain and volume. This is what you will discover in this lecture. What is gain and how to change the gain? What's the difference between gain and volume? When to change the gain and not to change the volume, or vice versa. Actually, there is always a certain confusion between gain and volume, but I want to make sure that you know exactly what is gain and how it affects your volumes or your audio levels. So let's start. Now you are in section 8, part 2, and all we need is our sequence. Cool, I will take this one up. Okay, take the audio up, here you are, and zoom in on audio 3 and maybe audio, yeah, the dialogue here. Let's also zoom in so we can see our peaks a bit better. You notice these are the peaks, the top ones here. Cool. Gain, you can think about it as the input audio levels of a clip. This is the startup values for the audio levels or the volume, but don't confuse with volume. So this is the audio levels you are going to start with. And generally, we start by adjusting the gain, then playing with the volume. For example, you will adjust the gain for these clips and then come here and start playing with the volume up and down, depending on what you need in your sequence and in your video. In our case here, if we solo and just play here, you notice that the volume is pretty high. Notice how it's hitting above here. It's very high, and actually it's more than the maximum that the speakers can take. Good. We need to adjust this. You can of course play with the volume, take the volume down. That wouldn't be the correct way. The correct way is to adjust the gain, the initial audio levels, and then in your sequence play with the volumes. Of course, you could have several volumes for this clip within your sequence. Makes sense that you break it up. One is high, one is low, and you play with it. You can add keyframes. We'll see that later. So you're really playing with the music. But the gain or the initial input levels should be set at the beginning. You could set them at the level of a sequence. That's cool. Or you can come and set them at the level of your source monitor here, so you can start with good gain. For now, let's take this example. To set the gains, you can right click on the clip and go to audio gain, and the shortcut here is G. You click on audio gain and you have the audio gain panel. It has several options. You can set the gain to, it means you are fixing the gain, or you can adjust gain by. It means you can take it up and down every time you put a value here. Now every time you add a value here, one after the other, it will accumulate in set gain to. Let's see how it works. If I say -12, it means I'm going to take down the gain and click OK. Notice what happened. It is the waveforms that shrunk, they became smaller. It means now you reduce the gain, independent of the volume. You know, this is the volume bar. We learned it in section 1. So it does not change anything with the waveforms. Only the gain will change the waveforms. So if you press G now for the shortcut, you go back to audio gain and you say adjust more. Let's say -8. Now before you click OK, notice set gain to has changed to -20. Remember, you put -12, -8, it becomes -20. Always try to use adjust gain by, because you know what you have done before. You know how much you have accumulated, and it will help a lot than changing this value and forgetting what you have done before. So if I click OK now, it will be at -20, and the waveforms now went even down. Let's look at our audio meter here. Press the space bar. Look where you are at -24, -27. This could be okay for the volume you're doing, or you can readjust it anytime you want. Now, if within your sequence you have a portion of the music that you want to hike the volume or lower the volume, then you will use that with the volume and not the gain. Cool. How does the workflow happen? You remember that we didn't start this project within Premiere Pro here. We are just doing the course together. We are learning step by step. But usually the workflow will go like this. For example, let's take our interview. If you double click on it, you will open it in the source monitor. Let's go to audio. And remember the previous lecture, we made it stereo here. You can go back and make it audio. Let's right click, modify audio channels. Let's go back to use file, and it's mono. We click OK. Of course, yes. Now, we have here a certain gain or certain input levels. If you don't like this, you can hike them or lower them. The way to do it, from your source monitor, you can press G bring up the audio gain and say, okay, I want to add the audio levels. Let's say we say 5. And you say, okay, here you are. Now the audio has become louder. This is the input level. This is what we are going to start with. From here on, you will do your sub clips, and then you start dropping in your sequence. And within your sequence, you can come and lower or hike the volume. Let's look at the other option here. If I press G, there is something called normalize maximum peak 2. First of all, let's set gain to 0 and click OK. So we are back to the initial values. Then we press G and normalize maximum peak. This is the max peak you want to take down. Subsequently, all the rest will go down. Only the max peak. So there is only one that you are going to take down. I don't know where it is, but it will take everything else down. And let's say we select this option and just write, for example, -20, just to exaggerate to show you. I click OK. Now it has taken all the audio down, or it has reduced the gain. And I don't know where is the maximum peak, but if you play it, it's on solo. Here you are. It's really working on it. That's fine. It's hard to guess now because we really need to listen to everything. So let's undo and then go back to G. You can also normalize all peaks. So whatever is too high or the highest points will go down now. This is quite cool also. A good option. Let's say -20. Okay, we have very high here. So now all the peaks went to the maximum of -20. Now, if you play your clip, here you are, it's going, it's peaking at -21. You need to play the whole audio so you know the maximum peak. Cool. So this is about the gain and this is about the workflow. Remember that gain is the input levels, is what you start with, and volume is the output level, is what you end up with just before rendering. You can think about it like this. You will set the gain and then play with the volumes up and down depending on what you're doing in your sequence. Thank you very much for listening. I will see you in the next lecture, and I hope you understood this concept. Any questions you have, post them in the Q&A section of the course. I will be very happy to answer them.